Failure isn't fatal, but failure to change might be. Hello there, my name is Meșter Cătălin and you are listening to I Love Failure, the podcast where I talk to people about professional failures and what they learn from them. The I Love Failure movement started with an idea, to change people's relationship with failure. Since then, we had many sold-out events where people get on stage and talk about professional failures with a room full of people. This week, I sit down with Gabriel Paunescu. He's an entrepreneur who started companies in France, UK and the US and is currently the CEO of NowLogic. NowLogic is a tool for B2B commerce companies to create software without programming experience.
The first mistake was listening to Lean Startup thingy.
The book, right.
Go to your customers, do this, do that, talk to your blah, blah, blah. So we did. And without even trying too hard, we closed a really big airline in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And we were not near that. We were far from ready to deliver anything.
Mm-hmm.
So then it started being like a development project, It was contracting basically. Because we didn't have anything, but you can't really say no to your big customer, like you have to.
Before we begin this week's episode, I would like to thank MySpace for hosting this podcast. If you're looking for flexible office spaces for companies of any size, MySpace is the place for you. Also, if you want to support the I Love Failure movement, you can go to ilovefailure.co/support. That's ilovefailure.co/support, where you can become a Patreon or buy cool merchandise. Thank you and enjoy the show. Hello, Gabi. Thanks for coming to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Let's start by talking a little bit about yourself. I know you have a lot of experience, in an entrepreneurship. You've been places. What happened? How did everything go?
So many things happened. So I basically started straight out of high school because I wasn't really patient enough for college, and I tried looking at Polytechnic and other universities, like for computers, because I'm already really good at computers. But it was just like, okay, so we're going to learn these many things, but like, when are we learning to make, I don't know, an e-commerce website or something?
No, something cool, right?
Something actually useful for something, right? Except some research or whatever. So that wasn't really for me. So I started my first company. It was ogamehosting.com. Very proud of that. Yeah. Yeah. So I started by building a game hosting solution. This was before Amazon and all that stuff. So I just bought a bunch of servers, put them in a weird little room without windows, which just happened to be in my house.
So classic garage type of
classic garage, exactly.
Only in Romania.
Only in Romania, yeah. Got some internet. Back then it was all local providers. Got some internet from one of the local providers. We actually took the ladders and went up the poles and put our own fiber optics in because it was like pretty new. I remember that I paid like 600 euros for the wire, because it was really expensive wire back then. Yeah, that was super cheap. Yeah. So all this to do this little game solution for people who loved Counter-Strike. Back then everybody was playing Counter-Strike. So in order to set up your own servers and play with your friends, you just sent an SMS to a number. You had your account and that was it. Your server was up and running. You could see scores, track scores between friends, something like that. It's like Twitch without streaming, basically. Oh. So, I don't know, I think it was like 2004, 2005, something like that. And I worked a lot. On that system, trying to get it built because there was pretty much nothing there. And then pretty much everything went to shit when a truck hit the fiber optics cable and broke. And that was it. Like, our customer base was not patient. They were all 16, 17-year-old people, 15-year-old people, but usually paying with mom's phone. We had instances where mom was calling us like, why are you taking my money for? What is this porn?
They stole the statements, right? And
Yeah. I was like, no, this is porn. This is games. Games? What kind of games? What are you...
What are the kids doing there?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so... that was pretty much.
Yeah, and in Romania at that time, credit cards were.
They didn't exist. They didn't exist because we kept asking. We had like this Yahoo back then. It was Yahoo. We had this Yahoo Messenger, and we had like 4,000 or 5,000 people, And from time to time, I was just asking people, like, would you rather pay with a credit card? And they were all like, no, my mom would never give that to me. Right. But SMS, yeah, she's never going to see it. Okay.
Yeah, only on the stadium, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So this was kind of a forced failure, but by then I was pretty burned out. It was the beginning of the financial crisis, which for some reason other countries managed to rebound in like 3 years. Romania took like 15.
Yeah, it's still
exactly. For some reason, it never really recovered. And these kinds of fun expenses were the first thing to go. So we were already losing customers.
So this was just in Romania, the hosting?
Actually, we had some customers from France and Italy who just happened, probably Romanians from there. But the problem was the internet. Like internally, it was working really well inside Romania, but outside Romania, it was really laggy. So we couldn't provide any sort of quality for them. And my stupidest move, one of many, was I was contacted by a company called cPanel, which is probably the biggest hosting panel provider in the world. And they had this little plugin that they use for Counter-Strike for exactly the same thing. And I got contacted by them, and they say, wouldn't you like to put your system in what we do? And like maybe we just buy you out and you become our employee. And I was like, hell no, this is going to 1 billion and this is going to whatever. See, so
how many Counter-Strike players did you thought there were, man?
I don't know. I was watching movies or something. I don't know what I was thinking. Yeah, that would have been a great move. Yeah. But it didn't happen. So after this, pretty much like the entire customer base disappeared. And then I took the little money that I had over and I bought a one-way ticket to France. I had a friend of mine who was there already, where the same. I did a couple of roles, everything kind of IT related, trying to co-found companies, trying to work as a contractor, stuff like that. But my heart was never in contracting ever. It was hard for me to be an employee. It was hard for me because I hear people is like, I can't have a boss and whatnot. I can have a boss, I don't mind. But I need that boss to be smart. I need the vision to be big. Like a general is always a good soldier. But I like every time I try to work with somebody, is like, yeah, but I mean, we could improve this, and then we can improve that, and then we can do this, and then we can do that. And they were like,
you're bugging them, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Look, man, just do your thing.
Exactly, that kind of employee.
Yeah. It's obvious that it's not for you.
Yeah, so that never actually happened. So I ended up co-founding a number of startups. Some of them we had a little bit of traction, and then either my heart wasn't in it, or I wasn't patient enough, or it was just not my thing. It was this little social network for travel, which was fun because I was traveling as well. It was this real estate app, which was fun, but then with the other guy who was supposed to be the co-founder, we had a lot of disagreements. So that ended, and just a few small things here and there, until I landed at it was actually a co-founder meetup, like Meet Your CTO, it was called. At a place called Le Camping, which was the first accelerator in Paris back then, tech accelerator, yeah. And it was really funny because you look there, and half of the companies were either for dating or fucking, or and the other half was e-commerce, getting your customers back for e-commerce. That was it. There was literally nothing else.
So sex and e-commerce.
Exactly. That was the only two things there. And I was just watching that board. I was like, God damn, this is stupid. Like I couldn't work with any of these. It's just fucking dumb. And then a guy walked in with this big golden retriever. It was just him and the dog. And I was like, what the fuck is this guy doing? And he's the only one in a suit, and everybody was like acting all Mark Zuckerberg with hoodies and all that. And I was like, what are you doing? He's like, yeah, I'm kind of searching for a CTO. I have this thing where we sell adult diapers, and we need to expand. We need to do logistics. I'm like, oh, that's
adult
interesting.
Diapers, right.
Yeah, and he was like, Well, you know, I mean, 'cause at first he didn't say adult diapers. He said medical equipment, medical insurance. And then he told me, like, I didn't want to tell you because it's not like a sexy business or whatever.
All right, it's a turn-off.
Exactly.
For many
Yeah.
people.
Exactly. But then I was like, well, not really. I mean, huge profit margins, zero returns, constant demand and growing demand because, like, you never really get over it. You know, it's like once you're in, you're in. Exactly.
Right. Until you die, right?
Until you die, yeah. And actually, this is going to be a weird story, but our customer lifetime was the lifetime of the customer. So
right.
An average lifetime of 5 years.
That's how much he lived, right? That's...
And then when we had callbacks to see, like, why did you stop the orders? It was like, well, we kind of died.
Yeah, he's gone. Man.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, this is an interesting statistic. Yeah. So that grew to about 40 employees. We sold in Northern Africa. We sold in Canada. We sold all over Europe. And then the company itself got sold. But I exited early because of the sexiness of another business. To me, I'm pretty sure for nobody else, but to me, I met somebody who was in Silicon Valley and has been there for like 40 years. And we built a system for industrial kitchens, for really big kitchens, to reduce their hot water and gas consumption. So we did that. We did a bunch of tech. We did a bunch of patents. That was a big success. We got praise from a lot of people. We actually got praise from the Penny Pritzker. She was the Secretary of Commerce for Obama.
All right.
Yeah. So that was, that's a validation, except it's from the wrong person, but it was a validation.
Validation nonetheless. Kept you going. Right?
Yeah. So it really kept the morale up. We raised a bunch of money, spent a bunch of money building our stuff. But the problem is we didn't conduct customer interviews like really thoroughly. We didn't focus on the right buyer. And I don't think there was a right buyer back then. Just to get a feeling, one of our customers was a big university, and they wanted to optimize their hot water and gas consumption across their campus, which is a huge campus. And we did like in 3 different rooms. We set up sensors. You could see a dashboard. And it was like, oh, that's cool. All right, let's start looking at how we deploy it in the whole university, like for all the buildings and all that stuff. And we were like, okay, cool. Let's start with what you have. Let's see what you have, like from buildings to assets to whatever. And their last inventory was 2008 on an Excel spreadsheet, and we were in 2016 already.
Oh, yeah.
So no,
nothing up to date, right?
Exactly. So they really didn't have, because like, okay, track our assets. Yeah, but you don't even know what assets you have. See? So the problem they had was very different than what we were solving.
Right.
At the same time, we were, even then we got another acquisition offer really early on. But we didn't want to do it because obviously we were going to $1 billion, like nothing under $1 billion.
Everybody does.
Exactly. But the acquisition offer was super early. I think it was like 8 months in or 12 months in. And it was for 50% of the company. And we would practically become employees of a larger group, which did a lot of manufacturing in all sorts of places. Thinking back, like that would have been ideal. Like we just built our tech. They had manufacturing. They were in business. It's like, I forgot the name of the company, something from Singapore. They were like 40 years in business, building washing machines and all that stuff. So it was ideal. We could have just placed the tech in their tech and that was it, right?
So this was a bad business decision.
This was a really bad business decision.
So
yeah.
How did that happen? I mean,
it was kind of natural. We just walked in the office and we were like, okay, like these guys, this is what they want to give us. The price was really low, but we were getting a lot of equity in their company. We were getting nice packages and all that stuff. And we were like, nah. It's like, nah, we can go out, we can get customers back. So it was only a 5-minute decision. Like nobody wanted to quit before $1 billion.
Yeah, but just one question here is, do you think, like looking back, that you could have done differently than what you did then? I mean, you could have done differently, or
if the process was pretty simple. What we were doing was dependent on the context where it happened. So if you want to optimize a kitchen, then you better have a strong partner or an employer who is in every kitchen in America or whatever.
No, I'm not saying that to take the decision. I mean, with the knowledge that you had, like those 5 minutes that you talked and said, okay, fuck this guy, we're not going to do this. Do you think you could have done differently, with the knowledge that you had and, how you were then? This is a question of, more of a free will kind of debate. But at the time you had the mindset, you had those circumstances, and that's the only decision you could have come up with.
Yeah.
Like looking back.
Yeah.
Do you think you could have done differently? Like,
we should have said yes. Yeah.
Yeah, you think that you could have done? Okay.
No, we should have said yes. If
I know you should, but could you? I mean,
back then, if somebody came to me and explained to me the buying process that our customers have to go through, that all of upper management needs to be involved, that everybody needs to test it for a year, that like if somebody told me that back then, I was like,
yeah, but that's another variable into the equation.
Exactly.
But the thing is, with the knowledge that you had, at the time, could you have done differently?
No. If there was no outside intervention,
right? It's
without
the same
any
process in your mind.
Exactly.
There is
exactly.
No.
But the thing is, I always reacted well to logic. Like if somebody, even if it's something contrary to what I believe in,
right? If it makes
sense.
But
if you spell it out, if you tell me the process, if you tell me the numbers, I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, but if it doesn't happen, that's
if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. And I usually make decisions very fast, even big ones, really fast.
Yeah, okay. That's good and bad.
Bad but fast.
Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad.
Like my current co-founder Oliver once told me is like you're often wrong but never in doubt.
Yeah. So you keep on moving. Yeah. Well, there is a reason for this question usually, because there are a lot of people who blame themselves. After something happened, like a big thing like this. Oh fuck! If I'd done that, and
I always blame myself.
Keep on torturing themselves with those questions, but looking back, there is nothing he could have done. I mean, in that moment, the way he was, I don't think you could have done anything.
I always blame myself, even when it wasn't my fault. I always blame myself, because if it's like, okay, something happened. Okay, why didn't you see it early? Like, why didn't you pick it up early?
How could you see it? I mean, if you could, you would.
But isn't that the only way that you can like make better decisions in the future?
Sure, but you write it down and you don't have to kill yourself basically over it, because
I don't kill myself.
Over blaming yourself, like people remain in the past a lot of time and they cannot move forward. You keep on putting more thoughts into that, and
it's the same for longer projects. Like I often hear startups, especially local ones. They're going really slow, and they say, we've been doing this for 8 months. And I was like, yeah, but it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't really matter that you did it for 8 months. You could do it for 4 years, 5 years. There's a ton of examples of companies. For example, Qualtrics. Qualtrics is a company that was bought last year for $8 billion. It took them 5 years to get to $100,000 a year. That's less than minimum wage. If you have like 2 developers and like that's less than minimum wage, And then they got bought out. 3 years later, they got bought out with $8 billion. Why? They kept all their equity. They worked hard. They had a mission. They validated all over the place. And at one place, the market just accepted the solution that they have as the de facto solution. And that was it.
Yeah, so this brings us to when should you stop? Like there are some kind of companies like this where if you wait a little bit longer, the timing could be right for you, and or should you stop?
You should have a process. You should have a process for starting, and you should have a process for stopping. The process for starting is
but it's hard to like stick to the stopping process. I mean,
it's very hard.
The starting process, okay, you read some lean startup, you do some, okay, I can do a process for that. But for stopping, man, that's hard. I mean, like quitting your dream, while you still have money. Like if you don't have money, okay, that's
certainly if you have money, it did happen to me. If you have money, you can do stupid things faster, a lot faster. And call it validation when it's not. But for stopping, you need to set a goal. First of all, you need to forgive yourself for the time that's passed and you don't feel like you are where you're supposed to be in some imaginary
You
scale.
never are. But
Exactly.
okay.
Yeah. And then you just got to have a process and say, okay, can we get 5, 10, 20 customers in the next 6 months? Or if you're a consumer app, we either get 20,000 downloads in 6 months, or we call it quits. You just follow your North Star metric, one of them, and that's it.
Sounds good, like
On
logically
paper,
speaking, like on paper. Okay, but it's practical. I don't know. I think it's impossible with people to stop. Based on this, some metric didn't work, and because they're gonna come up with another stuff. Like, it's not the timing. Maybe if we do this, maybe if we do that, we try that. We put some more development.
Yeah, exactly. If you're seeing signals.
Yeah, if you're seeing signals, but it's more many are imaginary. Like really,
exactly. But if you're seeing signals from, let's say, you talk to 10 customers, and 8 of them tell you no, but let's say 9 of them want to see your product. They don't just tell you no off the bat. If they tell you no off the bat, there's a big problem there. Yeah. They see the product and then they say, look, we kind of have this need, blah blah blah, that's costing us a lot of money, and you don't really have it now. Like, that's a signal. You look at what that need is, you understand specifically how much money they're losing on that, and then you see if you're the right person to build it further. But if you have, let's say, a consumer app and organic's not doing anything for you, you keep pumping money into Google and nothing really happening, there's just a bunch of downloads, customers keep leaving, because the problem is not, let's say you work for 2 years, right, and you're not at whatever you want it to be, right? The problem is not how you spend the money. The problem is how fast you iterate. Because if your churn is high, right? Let's say you pay $1 per download and your app is an app that finds your keys, and people use it once and then don't open it again. If you constantly iterate, month after month, you try something, you see something, you track the movement in the app, you see what's not working, and you actually do something about it, then chances are you're going to get it somewhere, right? But if you make one app, like I've seen locally 1,000 times, you make one app, you launch it on the market, and that's it. You wait, you go, you talk to people. Yeah, but like, where's the product going? It's going nowhere, right? So there's no chance of just like, and this is directly linked to raising money. Like, when you go to raise money, you need to show the solution, but also to show the problem. Like, look, we had 20% of people drop off after the first month. We did this, and that, and now it's only 15%. If we get more money off the new interviews, we do this and that, and we're going to get to only 4%. See? In the meantime, we pay for more ads or whatever, and we bring more downloads in. And eventually, we make this organic loop that starts feeding itself.
Right. Yeah. So how did it happen for you? Like, at the end, how did you stop? Because with this company,
broke, alone.
So the usual way, like broke, alone, divorced,
divorced,
without kids.
Back in Paris. Back in Paris, and it's never easy. Like, it was not easy with the first company. It was not easy with the last company.
It's never easy with the failures, right?
It's never easy because, first off, you feel guilty because you wasted a lot of time. Although it's not wasted time. You learn more in doing 2 years in a startup than you would in 3 different universities.
Yeah, or 20 corporate jobs when you do your small thing.
The problem is that doesn't change the fact that you're broke.
Oh, yeah.
Which hurts.
Yeah.
Which hurts. So, based on that, it only took me 1 week to come up with the new company, which is the current company. But as opposed to before, I didn't start it like an idiot, like I used to. Researched, talked to people, to really smart people, highly targeted people. I even have a funny story. One of the biggest, I don't really do naming or whatever you call it. One of the biggest investors in the world was one of the first people that I sent an email to explain. And he sent an email back saying that the market vision is pretty good if the conditions are met for fast development, which is what we're doing now. So that was like, literally I had nothing, just a bunch of research, a bunch of documents. And I was just, I think I'm right. I think I'm right about this. But I didn't start right away. I just left. Like it was more like a latent state. I was doing experiments to see if I'm right. That was the big problem, to figure out if I'm right. And in the meantime, I started traveling to London more and more. I got some contracting position there for big banks for doing security, penetration testing. I was a lead engineer in this big enterprise project. And that was a lot of fun, but it was a lot of fun because it was short. It took me a few years to figure it out, but I accepted a job because I knew it's a 6-month job, like from the beginning.
So it's gonna end and everything.
Exactly, because it was a consulting agreement. It wasn't like a temporary hire.
So
and then
were you scared that, like with the regular jobs, you can like get trapped in there for a really long time and just wake up because it's so comfortable. You go for 4 hours, maybe 5 hours, drink your coffee, and you just find yourself, I'm 50. What the fuck happened?
Exactly. And I didn't feel like that because I know when it's ending. And I knew that I really wanted to do my company. I didn't want to stick there, but also I was out of money, so I needed to make money. And it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I got to fire people, hire people, change everything all of a sudden. It was kind of an entrepreneur kind of situation.
That's the best situation because it's not your money. You're still getting paid. You're getting the experience.
And you're doing only the fun stuff.
You're doing, that's ideal. The only problem is that you don't have any equity, so... Yeah, and you basically applied all the things that you learned from all the previous failures to this company, right?
So before this company, actually, I was the CTO of another company. It was called Satoshi. So this was...
Sounds like a Bitcoin thing.
It was a Bitcoin thing, this was, for the first time, we did things the right way, the startup way. You start, you research, you grab, but we had one big mistake. We follow the trend. Companies who follow trends, they end up in the garbage, always. So we followed the Bitcoin trend. It was this whole craze.
You mean like going up and down or what? Like
No. I mean like a trend is in, you look at Google trending, like Google Trends, for example, and it's like all-time high searches for this, for that, for this, for that. See? That kind of hype,
okay.
And you watch Twitter and it's like all sorts of conversations.
This is going that
the
way.
Press, exactly, the future, the whatever, but that usually dies down pretty fast.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, exactly. It's like one thing after the other. When I was doing the kitchen thing, the IoT thing, IoT was the trend. Everybody was crazy about IoT. This is going to save humanity. It didn't do anything. It's bullshit. But this one, we got accepted into the accelerator in San Francisco, Refiners, really good, one of the best accelerators that I've ever seen. This was my second accelerator, actually. And we got funded, and then we got a bunch of angel money, and we built really, really quickly. We brought the product to market. The problem was we were actually the first company in the US that you could buy Bitcoin with a credit card that was approved by the SEC, by the American government or whatever. The problem was, in order to be compliant and to be legal, obviously, we had to spend like $25,000 a month just for that.
Consultancy stuff. Fees.
Consultancy, legals,
I know they
custody.
Did that.
It was so expensive. And you couldn't use Stripe as a payment processor. Now you could use Coinbase, from what I understood, a lot simpler. But back then, no. So with that high a burn, and it was the next year was obviously the down year because the hype was going away. And the only other possible investors were people who knew Bitcoin really well. But the people who knew Bitcoin really well didn't want to sell because Bitcoin was like down at 4K. And they're like, no, I'm going to wait because it's going to go to 1 million again. And like everyone else. Yeah. So then we had to shut it down because we lost our payment system, and that was pretty much the end of it.
But there you are the CTO, you're not like the owner.
No, I was the co-founder and CTO.
So you got...
Again. Yeah. We built real quick, and the market turned against us. And we didn't want to drag a dead dog. And it's really good. Looking back, it was a really good decision to close up shop. Because then there was Cash App from Twitter, which is doing really good right now. Which pretty much killed everybody. Like literally the first quarter they had like 40 million in revenue. I mean, it's Twitter. So Yeah. So now there's a bunch of them. So we did good. Like, cause even if we raised funding, we would still get crushed by Twitter, and then get crushed by Revolut, because now you can buy crypto Revolut.
Okay, so basically what you learned here was, okay, the trends, like how the media and the market, everything looks like, it's not what the market really wants.
No.
So that's something that you have to see for yourself.
No.
And
even now, if you look at trends, blockchain and enterprise, big companies, is like, all exciting and whatnot. Every single enterprise that I talk to is like, we don't care. Like, literally, we don't care about blockchain at all. And that's the truth, right?
Yeah, right. So this ended without any, I mean, you didn't, like, you ran out of money and the market changed. So again, running out of money, that's the
and
main
personal
thing.
money again.
And personal money again, yeah. Yeah, man, like, your girlfriend must be really, really upset.
Which
like,
one? They keep changing,
They keep changing. Like, when you lose your ass, fuck you, man.
No, it like everything, especially the failures, they had a big strain on personal relationships.
Yeah, of course. And also the family, like, what are you doing? Just get a job. Look at that guy. Like,
look at your brother.
Look at your brother. Yeah, he's doing so.
Yeah.
Like people with the entrepreneurial spirit, like, are, you know, until they make it, if they make it, because it's a small chance of success there. Yeah.
So then it was back into, then I picked up my old notes, because when I first started Logic, when I first started researching, it was just a bunch of notes. It wasn't a company, it wasn't anything basically. So after this failure, I started picking up my notes, and then it's back to another startup. What else can you do?
Right.
Yeah. I looked at contracting. I had a bunch of offers from like previous people that I work with, but I was like, you know what? What I want to build has to be in the world. This has to come out. And if I start contracting again, and in London, which is a lot of fun, it's a lot of fun. It's good money. It's not bad hours. I was like, I'm not gonna do. I know me.
You're not gonna stick to it.
I'm not gonna stick to it. Like doing something on the side or stuff like that. So I just stuck with it through tough times, and we built it with zero funding. That was on purpose. And again, mistake after mistake. The first mistake was listening to Lean Startup thingy.
The book, right?
Go to your customers, do this, do that, talk to your blah, blah, blah. So we did. And without even trying too hard, we closed a really big airline in Europe. And we were not near that. We were far from ready to deliver anything. So then it started being like a development project, you know? It was contracting basically, because we didn't have anything, but you can't really say no to your big customer. Like, you have to do what they want.
So you're poking around to see if people want something.
I was poking around, and it actually closed the deal without even trying too hard. And I was like, whoa.
That's good.
Depends
on what they want. I mean,
the bad part is finding customer alignment. That's hard. So especially with bigger companies have custom needs. Like, there's no two alike, right? So we ended up just being their development office. So we couldn't do much about it, right? So obviously we failed on that contract, because what we were trying to do something a lot more sophisticated. We were trying to get, for example, I don't know, let's say you need a CRM, right, for your podcast. And you need guests, you need show minutes, you need a script, you need blah, blah, right? So ideally, you would go on a computer and you would subscribe to something that's a CRM for podcasts, let's say, right? But you can't find that because it's not there. Or if you find it, it has like 1 billion buttons and you barely use 4 of them, right? With our system, you can go and you can build yourself that CRM, or you can have somebody build it for you, and it's going to cost you a few $100, and then you just pay a monthly subscription, and you basically have a dedicated CRM or even bigger ERP for exactly what you need it to be. And then you change it and you upgrade it. Maybe you add something for video, maybe you add something for video streaming, a little module, so stuff like that, without necessarily being a really good developer, without necessarily knowing what you do. And I think next year we're going to also open the marketplace so people can build and sell their own solutions directly there for like micro use cases, really dedicated use cases.
So you have with Now Logic, like, Q1, Q2, metrics, everything set up to like basically know where you're going. So
so right now we already have customers. After that customer we had another customer, another big fluke, again too early. Going to your customer too early if you're B2B is very dangerous. Like if you're doing a SaaS application for gold diggers, right? And you find yourself a gold digger. What did I just say?
Yeah, gold digger, like gold digger.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah. You can build on that and then you can resell it to others, right? But if you have a wider variety of applications, going too early is a danger. So we learned from that and we moved on. And now we have customers mostly from the US, and we're just preparing to launch the solution where you just click, and everything's done automatically.
So basically you build your own stuff, incorporate.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So this is your latest venture. You're also
this is the latest venture. Yeah.
A mentor, and I really think that mentors are the best that had experience, like really big failures. So you've got something to like tell people, look, man, I've done that. It doesn't work. Don't do that. It's important to have failure in this. So what's your relationship with failure like? I mean, you seem to be pretty comfortable. I don't know.
Yeah, I've grown to be comfortable.
It sucks all the time. That's
yeah, but it sucks less with time. And also the important part is the preparation. So the more you prepare, the less you fail. And also the learnings, like, I need to learn from my mistake. Yeah, but it would take a really long time to learn only from your mistakes. So you need to learn from other people's mistakes as well.
Yeah.
But the thing is now I don't even see it as failure. Like for example with Satoshi, when the company failed, I didn't really call it failure. I mean, I looked at the market. I saw that the market was down. I checked. We literally talked to, I think, 500 different investors. It's like, okay, 500 people tell you no, guess what? It's kind of a no.
Yeah, it's no, man. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, so we literally tried everything we could to make it work, but the market was against us, right? So the company failed, but as long as it fails for the right reason, I think that's fine, right? And nobody could have predicted a down year. I mean, everybody predicted a down year because they said Bitcoin is stupid, but nobody really predicted like, okay, it's going to lose 5x and everything gets wiped out and stuff like that. See, so that was hard to predict. And in this current venture, we just basically follow signals.
So the less it's your fault, basically something that you could have done, the easier it is for you to get off. Like if it's coronavirus, okay, fuck it, what could I do? I mean,
if it's your fault, it's your fault. Right? But if it's an external factor that's influencing this, for example, coronavirus, but it could be coronavirus that killed your business, but most likely it's going to be you who didn't react to corona business. Oh, you have a restaurant, well, there's not much that you can do there. So maybe some deliveries, but there's already so many. It's,
Yeah, but how do you make it easier for yourself? Like, you have to forgive yourself, right? That's what you said. This is what I do, everybody's doing. How do you make it easier to forgive yourself, like when something goes wrong? Your girlfriend is telling you, your friends are telling you, the market is telling you, keep pushing it. How can you make it easier to forgive yourself after that, so to move forward?
I do this thing where I go outside my network and I pitch my company. I pitch it to customers. I pitch it to people who work with my competitors. I literally pitch it to the sales people from my competition. I pitch it to investors, and you hear from them, right? And those are the signals. And if there's no excitement, if there's nobody willing to join you in your mission, if they don't really care about what you do, then because listening to friends is hard because they're biased, always.
Right.
Listening to your mom is even worse. That's the worst decision you can have.
Yeah.
When-
She's out of date. Like,
yeah, exactly.
That's
So just also something that I always tell startups, there's not a little website, it's a big website called f6s.com, where you have like literally all the accelerators in the world, even the shitty ones, because most of them are shitty, you know? And I always tell startups, you know, like don't struggle to write code, don't start raising, you know what? Make a good pitch, make a solid pitch, pretend you're on the market, and go pitch every accelerator in, I don't know, Minnesota and Utah and France and Germany and whatever. See? If even the shittiest accelerators tell you no,
it's
you're,
no.
yeah, it's kind of a wrong thing. And you can do that. It's for free, but you have to be willing to accept that no. Because the biggest problem with accepting, I've done a lot of mistakes by accepting feedback. I've done more mistakes by accepting feedback than by not accepting feedback.
Yeah, but it influences you. There is no way you can around it. I mean, this is how we live. Like feedback is everything we've got. So, you know, it's you in your head and the feedback that you get around you. I mean, if the voice is louder, you're gonna go.
The problem is assessing who's behind that feedback, right? Like if you tell me my shirt is green and you wanted a black shirt, okay, I believe you. It's not a problem. But if you start telling me your company is going to fail because this and that, you need to look behind and say, okay, what did they do in the past? How did it work out for them? Where are they right now? Why do they have the expertise to say certain things? And then you accept or don't accept the feedback. Or you're an idiot and you never accept feedback from anyone.
Yeah, that's usually the case. Yeah, they think they're right, and
because you want to be right so bad. That's the thing. You want to be right so bad. Like no matter what you do, even now, for example, we just started.
You have to believe it. You have to be an optimist with your company. I mean, if you're not an optimist, how can you drive people? You cannot. If you're like really pessimist about your company, nobody's gonna follow you. Nobody's gonna give you money. Nobody's gonna. And I think it's a good thing to be optimist, like in life, you know, because you can move forward
and constantly check. Like with now logic, based on my past trauma, we could have done it the same thing in half the time if we didn't over validate. We literally over validated. I spoke to over 100 companies, customers, VPs, you name it, experts.
You were burned so many times.
I was burned so many times. I wanted to make
try the water. Right?
And right now it's there's this weird phenomenon where I'm not an expert communicator by any means. So there's this weird phenomenon where I just tell you like in 2 sentences and I just expect you to understand what I've been researching for 2 years. And then I'm like, how the fuck does he not understand? Like what? Well, the problem is me, not...
Exactly. The information is too... That happens to a lot of people. Yeah, that's something that, you know, in your head, you're at one level and, you know, you're talking to normal people. What the fuck is this guy talking about?
Exactly. And there's also this tech bubble. Like, and tech bubbles are everywhere, not just Silicon Valley, but like literally everywhere. Every small community is like everybody, we should use AI to make this TV do something better or whatever. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, people just want to press the remote and watch Netflix. Like, they don't care.
Yeah. And what do you think about, you know, kids in general? I mean, you were lucky, like me, maybe unlucky, I don't know. I don't know yet, to be in this entrepreneurial thing and like it's very easy for you to try things. And for me the same, and a lot of other people. But for the other part, you know, the kids that are good at school, they follow rules, they go to the, you know, follow everything. It's very hard for them to try something. Even if they have a great idea, they're not going to try it. And they cannot bounce back from it. It's because they have no experience. Everybody says just listen and do what you're told. And eventually they say, okay, I want to try this. So the thing is, we have no education in this aspect, like in schools and so on, like to help you try things and like try to... Some education about failure, basically. Do you think that something like that could be... You can teach people something? So.
There's 2 things that I've always found weird obviously I didn't do much school. I just finished high school. But there's mostly because there's things that I always found weird about school. First off, you don't teach people to take risks in a smart way, which is like, what are you talking about? Like everything's a risk. You're crossing the street is a risk, right? And you're not giving young kids a framework to understand risk, to calculate risk. You're not giving anything. And secondly, you're not teaching people to communicate with each other, which is, wait a second, that's literally all we do every single second apart. The moments where you write code, that's literally all you do, talk to others, right? And there's no coursework as a kid to teach you how to talk, how to mitigate risk, how to handle yourself in a argument, how to assess an argument, how to move forward, like nobody teaches you that. It's just in college, like when you go to college, some colleges, right? So those are the two things that should be taught. And also, not so much as taking risks, but why don't we have some sort of, let's say, entrepreneurship leave, right? Like, okay, I leave my job and I get this little unemployment benefit that keeps me afloat for 6 months, and then I try to do something like that, right? Why isn't there a entrepreneurship support for when you want to leave your job? Like, I want to leave my job and I want to do this for a year, and if I don't hit my metric, give me a small amount of money just to cover my rent and stuff. And then, because that's very easy to assess, like you look, okay, it's 3 of you. Do you guys have the skills? Is it going to make it? Is it not going to make it? Who cares, right? I mean, the simple fact that you tried is going to make all the difference in the world. See?
Yeah.
So it's like everything is against being an entrepreneur. Everything.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's exactly opposed. Yeah.
And even if you fail, like they look at the one guy who succeeds, and there are 1,000 others who maybe tried this exact same thing. It wasn't the timing. It wasn't. He didn't get the money, but he wasn't lucky, and they are all like persecuted for
And that's not really a Romanian thing. That's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
It's the whole thing. It's like, oh, this project failed. Yeah, but so what? I mean, it's a numbers game. So what?
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do, like change the relationship with failure. I mean, it has to be like people have to be more vulnerable, like talk about it, like in big companies you have to they're trying to innovate, and in corporations you cannot fail. I mean, everybody knows don't rock the boat and so on. And now the management says, look, you have to innovate, you have to try stuff, you have to
but don't fail.
But don't fail, right? And if you don't fail, and if you do, you're fired, and I get the credit if you succeed. So that's the trade-off there. And they're not going to try. I mean, even if they do, they try like a little bit. They don't.
And the problem is for the people who really take risks. If you take enough risks, you don't really feel like it's a risk anymore. It's so calculated, and if everyone's like, you don't have a job, and you're like, well, I tried this. It's gonna work out. Eventually. Eventually, it's gonna work out.
So for these teams, like how do you think they can create a fail-safe environment? Like these companies, how have people trust them that it's okay to to innovate a little bit? What
for big companies?
For big companies,
For big companies, they should just hire startups. That's it. They just hire startups to do the proof of concept. Get mixed with the startup ecosystem is exactly what's happening in the US. So most accelerators in the US, they're actually corporate hunting grounds where reps of a big corporate, they have these things called innovation programs, which is basically, all right, like you're doing a new type of paper, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm a paper company, or we have a paper company in our portfolio of whatever companies. I'll give you 40 grand if you do this little notebook for us, blah, 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 see how it works. See? The problem is that most continuations of that is about you working for them. So you're not going to be an entrepreneur. But that's perfectly fine because there's a lot of products which you're not going to take to market yourself. You either don't have the power, you either don't have the connections, and some of them are, some of these projects, especially if you're highly specialized, like some sort of scientist or whatever, it's really hard. Without help, without working for somebody else, is really hard.
So The thing is, rather than trying to change the culture inside your company, just get the startups.
Don't change the culture, because the thing is,
they're good at what they do. Like
exactly.
For that, yeah.
So cultures are built. The reason why Facebook and Stripe and all these companies are doing so well is because they were building culture from day one.
Mm-hmm.
Big corporations, especially in Eastern Europe, they're more like communist cultures, but they've also been building for day one, except they've been building the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
And changing that now is going to be really hard, but the safest way to do it is to get mixed up with startups.
Mm-hmm.
Sponsor like 3 dudes who are trying to do something, or sponsor a little accelerator and go pick up projects from there.
Mm-hmm.
Like find people who are really good at development and have them do your proof of concept for whatever it is that you want to launch internally. It's safe, it's fast, and most importantly, those people are going to work their asses off.
Yeah.
Because if you do it, I've actually been part of a program in the Netherlands as an entrepreneur, where it's like entrepreneur inside a big corporation. Nah.
Yeah.
Nah, it's like, no, you have the liberty. Yeah, I have the liberty to change the color of a button or whatever. See, that's not really liberty. Or you're at liberty because it was about app performance. It was a banking app. It was like, you can do anything you want on app performance. So basically I can do anything I want on something that somebody's never going to see.
Yeah.
Whoa. You guys are so forward looking. Yeah.
There are some companies who are like trying this here, and we're going to have some entrepreneurs on this show to tell us their experience. And I know some guys who got full liberty to do their startup. They got funded and just have like one meeting with the board. At some time they give them money and they let them do whatever they want.
That's
basically.
Nice. That's cool. That's smart. That's smart on the corporate side. Very smart.
Yeah, they sort of, this startup, it's outside of our company. No jurisdiction, no project manager. And other companies that I talk to, they put the project manager on a startup. And that guy has no idea what is happening. He's used to project management stuff. He's not product owner. He doesn't even understand what's happening.
And also something that could help, and I've seen it being done, diversifying bids. So we want a proof of concept. Well, we're going to pay for 5 proof of concepts for 5 teams. Right?
Yeah, that's good.
And we accept that there's a single budget, and it's going to happen. Like, it will happen.
Cool.
Something that's a trap. This happened to us. There was a proposal from Siemens, I think, to join this group that they built, blah, blah, blah. And it was all about corporate innovations and all that stuff. But you had to sign an agreement to share your intellectual property with them. And they had the right to come for somebody from their staff to come and read the intellectual property that you were building before you filed it.
Oh,
yeah, exactly. That's not how you want to innovate.
No, it's not okay. And you said something like you should learn more from other people. You've learned that you should learn more from other people, not just hit your head. So do you have any ways of doing that? Like how can you learn from other people?
Just go hang out with other entrepreneurs who are actually doing things.
So go to events, go to
events, go to meetings, go to accelerators, like
just talk to them and
just talk to them. If you've been outside of the startup ecosystem, but you do have like 20 years in your whatever industry that you're in, and you want to get and start your own startup, go to an accelerator, because there's a lot of things that you don't know. If not, go to events. Now it's a bit harder. But it's also a bit more democratized. Like you have SaaSter, you have SaaScale, you have a lot of big events who are all online now. So it's $20 and you see like big speakers and all that stuff. But most importantly is like who you hang out with weekly or whatever, whenever you have time.
How about, videos and books and stuff like that?
Yeah. I actually, I used to read a lot because now I'm really busy. But after I'm less busy, I will read a lot again. Is by far the best way to educate yourself. Audiobooks mostly for the stuff that you don't necessarily want to read, because reading has a much better effect than listening to something. And also there's very few, I found very few really good books on startups, very few. And biographies, if you like that, biographies, but also those tend to be a little.
Can you recommend a book, like 1, 2, 3 books, if you?
Yeah. So especially for technical people, The Science of Selling. It's what happens when a technical person wants to sell. It's what happens on a psychological, on a biological, and on a mental model level whenever you're trying to sell your product to somebody. It's absolutely brilliant. Then there's Take the Work Out of Networking. That's a really good book because it's basically the proof why introverts are the best salespeople. Because by the stats, introverts have the highest scores when it comes to selling, because they have the lowest number of people-to-people connections, but they're the most meaningful of the connections. See, yeah, it's a really good book. And also, if you're really into startups, it's a very hard read. It's called Venture Deals. That's a really good book, but that's more like a dictionary of venture terms, and that it's pretty boring, but very interesting.
Very interesting. I mean, you need that.
Yeah.
You have to know how to talk to them. You have to get inside their mind. You have to talk to investors. This is the game we're playing. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is pretty much it. Thanks for coming on the show, and best of luck with Now Logic, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.